Let's
Hello and good evening wherever you are, fellow Spurs fans and football fans everywhere. Hope you're all well and enjoying this Sunday in the UK. Tonight we have Tottenham Spurs Diehards TTID podcast 5 for you. We shall be discussing the Euros, doing a preview of England versus Slovenia, probably a brief discussion about the Copa America, and then we'll probably bore you to death with the latest transfer news. Okay, so I'd like to introduce you to guest Chris, Meta Football. How are you, Chris? Hope you're well.
Yeah, not bad. Pretty dismal evening in Spain, but I'm very, very happy to cap off the night in your presence, Adrian, Chang, and Ian. Lovely to be here.
Thanks, Chris, and you. Yep.
Ian, and how are you?
Chris.
Yeah, I'm as good as can be. I don't know, Chris. Whereabouts are you? Because it's
Northwest, mate. Northwest.
Okay. Yeah, we've had this discussion. Yeah. No, I'm down on the Costa Blanca. The sun is slowly going down at 9 o'clock, but yeah, it's absolutely glorious here. But that's why people come here.
Yep, beautiful.
And Chang making his full debut with us. How are you, my friend?
Thank you very much for having me on. I did make a previous debut actually on the opening day of the Euros. I believe it was whilst the Scotland-Germany was playing in the background. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to complete the entire show, having spent the entire Friday at work. So I do apologize for not being able to complete the show. But this show right here on this Monday morning, it's 3 a.m. now here in Southeast Asia. I am all fired up for this show, as well as the finale to the Group A matches that are being played concurrently right now. That's going to be between Switzerland, Germany, and also between Hungary and Scotland. I believe kickoff has just commenced some 3 minutes ago, and we will be keeping our viewers with live updates to those two Group A matches to see which of those teams will make it into the knockout stages of the Euros. But without further ado, let's get into whatever programs and itinerary you have for us today, Mr. Stroker.
Well, we're going to start with the preview of England versus Slovenia. Darren Southgate has come in for a lot of criticism for his team selection and tactics. So, I mean, I've been critical of him in the past. It seems to be a bit of a contradictory in terms. I do think he's coming from some harsh criticism, especially during this tournament. I mean, he has played attacking teams, but the players haven't really performed, right? Whereas in previous tournaments, you could argue we've not beaten any good teams on which you consider good teams on paper, but at least we've played better in those games. Yeah. So anyway, I'll go on to our guest first, Chris, and ask him of his opinions of England, Southgate tactics, where he thinks we're wrong, where he possibly thinks we could fix things. Chris, over to you.
Thanks for that. Yeah, thanks for that, Adrian. And yeah, I'm happy that you started with me because I do have something to say about it, and especially with his his most controversial comment regarding Calvin Phillips. And I do actually think he has some substance to behind that, because each player has their own kind of characteristics, right? Now, just because a defensive midfielder is per se a defensive midfielder, not all of them are the same. Of course, it's not just like pick one out, put another one in. Now, Calvin Phillips has his own set of characteristics and attributes and deficiencies, like every player has. Now, if you look back at, for example, what we've done under Gareth, which is like 8 years now, since 2016, I believe it is. All of the important kind of matches that we've played has been Rice and either Henderson, right, which is a very similar profile to Calvin Phillips. He's like his guard, right? The Rice has been the player, the playmaker, so to speak, and Henderson has been his guardsman, right, his shield. And and Calvin Phillips is very similar to this. He's very good at long distance playmaking, and he's good in the defensive areas, right? And we don't seem to have, unless it's this Wharton, I think that's his name, Wharton from Palace, right? Those kind of characters, I haven't seen enough of him. I'm not going to come here and say I'm an expert on Wharton. I'm not. Now, unless Wharton has similar characteristics, the only reason why Wharton isn't playing is because of his lack of experience, and that's all I'm going to put it down to, right? So I do actually think that there is some substance behind what Southgate is saying, because we don't have a player like Henderson or like Phillips in the team. Obviously, Trent is not that man. He can ping the ball around, but he's not that man that has those similar characteristics when it comes to shielding the playmaker, which would be Rice. So in the rest of it, I think that Bellingham is a complete letdown, in my opinion, right? I expect much more of him, because football is a contact sport, right? And whenever he gets the ball taken off of him, whether it's a foul that the ref didn't give, or whether it's been cleanly, disputed, he's on fours. He's on all fours in the middle of the pitch, looking around like, why didn't you give me that? Instead of getting up and fighting to get that ball back, he's looking around like, what's going on? Now, at country level, and especially in a competition where you've got 3 games, right, and you don't know whether you're going to progress or not, you should be up like a blooming rocket and trying to win that ball back, or at least regain some kind of space or some kind of structure within that team, yeah? And I don't see that from Bellingham, and I think that's a very, very big letdown. Whether others pressure or not, or but I think that he's the main standout, isn't he? He's the one at Madrid. He's the one that's doing it all. He's the one that kind of, is the standout player. And I'm a bit let down by a few players, and Southgate as well. I think that he has to find a way, but it's all a chain reaction. I think that if one thing doesn't work, the others can't really fall into place. I think it's a bit of a mishmash.
All right. So add to that, right? What would you do if you were Southgate? I mean, who would you have? Do you agree with his team selection? Would you have changed any of the players? I know it's easy to be clever with hindsight after watching 2 games and he played poor, but even before the tournament, would you have perhaps added different players to the squad, or during these games, would you have gone with a different team yourself? With the same squad, would you have picked a different team?
Listen, I have to respect all managers' decisions, because they're the ones that are on the training, at training, and they're the ones that are sovereign. They're the ones that have to make the decisions in a short space of time. As I said, you've only got 3 matches. Then if you progress is another matter. But they have to make decisions in a very, very short space of time. Having these players within like weeks or days or whatever it is, and it's not just a whole season where you can chop and change and this, that. So I can play Football Manager all day, all week, all year if you want, Adrian, and guests and panel and chat. That's fine. But I think that if we can sit, with hindsight, as you say, yeah, you could have done this, you could have done that. I think that his decisions are correct with what he has to analyse, he has to assess with the players he has. Why doesn't he put, like everyone says, put Bellingham as an 8, put Foden as a 10, I even say that because it makes more sense to me, but I'm not there, you see. Maybe he has tried that and it doesn't work, you see. And Gordon on the left and this, that and the other on the right. And for example, why doesn't Cole Palmer play on the right? Because he's a left-footed player. I mean, he used to play on the right down at City. Then he's done it at Chelsea, so over Saka. All right, Saka's good, but why don't you chop it and change it a bit, The same as Foden. Why don't you play Foden just behind Kane? I mean, there's so many alternatives because we have such good players. It doesn't have to be, holding mid like a Bellingham and Rice in the midfield. We played 3-man midfield against France when we got knocked out of pens. We were Bellingham, Rice, and Henderson. Why can't we do that again? Do you know what I mean? It's not, the players aren't that dissimilar. Foden was a left winger when we played. Well, on paper. Then during the game, obviously, it changes and it chops and changes. But it's not that it's not that dissimilar. Everyone's calling for Wharton. Why doesn't Wharton play in the middle? Okay, if Wharton plays in the middle and it goes,
wrong.
who's gonna? Do you know what I mean? Who's gonna get the blame then? Is it going to be Wharton because he's inexperienced? Wharton because he's only 20 years old? Wharton because he plays for Palace? Wharton because he's Wharton? Wharton because his sister's name's Alice? Do you know what I mean? It's going to be, I don't know if she's named Alice or Clarice, I don't know, but do you see what I mean? There's going to be some kind of kickback over the decisions that are made within such short space of time in a knockout tournament. You know what I mean? So I respect Southgate. I respect him totally. Although I may disagree, but I have to respect managers. So
okay. Ian, your take on Southgate team selection?
Great. I don't agree with anything Chris says. So that makes for interesting. Makes for interesting discussion, if nothing else. So where do we start? First of all, I think Southgate's long past his sell-by date. I think he is typical of a football association appointment, someone who's smart, intelligent, articulate, who presents the image that the FA want presented of English football. I think tactically he's very, very limited. Now, some of what I picked up was actually something that I read from, I think, Martin Samuels in the Times or whatever it was this morning, about saying the Calvin Phillips situation, he's had practically 2 years' notice of this because he's not been in the City side. So, and presumably he's had sight of Jordan Henderson's birth certificate, or at least he had a vague idea of how old he was. And then when he went off to play with the Stiffs in Saudi and what have you. So Southgate has had a year and a half to get his head round this problem of what do I do about my second pivot if I'm going to play with a second pivot. The second thing about that, and where I disagree with Chris, is if he hasn't got someone to play the second pivot, and there's arguments not to. I mean, I'll come on to Tottenham in a second in that context. If he doesn't want to play the second pivot, that's fine. Then, or hasn't got anyone to play it, then change tactics. Find a different system that's going to suit the players that you've got. The second thing I want to pick up on that is Harry Kane, because I think once again Harry Kane is a problem. Now, we know at the end of last season, because he missed a couple of games, that Harry Kane has had a back problem. And back problems are one of those things you can actually hide, because if you've broken your leg, well, you broke your leg, you can't walk. But you can pretend your back's not too bad or whatever. And I get the feeling, I'm getting this feeling like when I was watching the Champions League final in 2019, that Kane is about half fit, and he's playing because Kane wants to play. And if you're talking about playing the boy Palmer, then I would be absolutely in favour of him playing at centre forward instead of Kane, and ahead of Tony and ahead of Watkins. That's how good I think that boy is, and he's probably as close to a direct swap for Kane, somebody whose work rate comes deep. I suppose you can say that about all of them, and Watkins in particular. But I like the boy Palmer. I think we all do. But I'm just absolutely not convinced by any stretch that Kane is fit, and I think he hoodwinks people into putting him into big games. I'm all for selfish centre forwards. If you remember in the friendly, the pre-tournament friendly, and I can't even remember who it was against now, but England got a penalty, and he was practically begging to be allowed to come on to take the penalty to add to his goal tally. You know, no thought of, you know, Palmer, how good it would be for him to get the evening, Chris, to get the to get, you know, one international goal. And sometimes I think Kane is just a bit too selfish for the team's good in the teams that he plays in. In terms then of tactics, it seems to me that the logic is you do change tactics. We've got no energy going forward and what have you, but let's try a 4-3-3. So the back four's done well. Let's keep that the same, and then we play Rice, because Rice is the best central midfield player there is, and you play Bellingham and Foden, Bellingham right, Foden alongside him, not dissimilar as two number 8s to the way Tottenham play. Then you play Saka on the right, you play Gordon on the left, and suddenly you've got a bit more balance as well, with Foden up there and with Gordon, who's naturally left-footed, and you play Palmer, if you know, he won't, but play Palmer as centre forward, and then I think you've solved your problem. But I don't think Southgate has any tactical nous. I don't think he's got any tactical imagination, and I don't see England progressing. But at least then the transfer window will heat up a bit, because some of these players will be moving, and we could play Etsy at wide left as well.
So you would drop the captain, and you drop Kane.
I've suggested he's not fit.
Right, that's fair enough. I'm not suggesting. That's fine. If it's for fitness reasons, fine.
I'm not suggesting for a minute you would drop an on-form fit Harry Kane, England's record goal scorer. Not for a minute. I just think he's. You look at his movement. He looks laborious. He looks sluggish. And he's had a couple of weeks off as well to recharge. I don't think he's fit. And if he's not fit, he shouldn't be in the team. It's too important.
Right. Chang, your take on Southgate tactics, team selections?
Well, I think the first two league games in the Euros, as well as the you could call it the pre-tournament friendlies prior to the Euros, speak for themselves. I think his team selection is the players pretty much pick themselves, even without having to really go into the entire squad to see who's fit and who isn't fit. I just wish that Southgate would just keep things simple. And the loss, I believe it was a 1-0 loss to Iceland, their final pre-tournament friendly before the Euros got underway. I think that in itself was already a good indication as to how disjointed sometimes his tactics are if he tries to meddle too much with the way England build up from the back, or even the way England try to create chances. I honestly feel that, you know, the players themselves, they have more than enough to actually see England through to the knockout stages, even as far as the semi-finals or even the final two for that matter. I wouldn't necessarily chop and change too much unless, you know, some of the players aren't feeling up for it, or if there's any long-term injuries that are just only now coming, you know, to the fore in this tournament. I would go back to basics though, at the very least, to just keep things simple. Just play man-to-man football. Try not to overcomplicate it, because if you've seen the positionings for Trent Alexander-Arnold as well as Kyle Walker against Denmark, to be outplayed in midfield by Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, who is more than likely on his way out. I think that is a big indication as to just how badly the English midfield got it wrong on the day against Denmark. And if they are, looking to get past even the last 16, if they do make it past the group stages, I think they just have to, like I said earlier, just keep it simple, not try to overcomplicate matters, not try to, oops.
That was me.
Not try
that
to,
was me.
It's okay, it's fine.
If I could work the buttons. Yeah.
It's fine. Yeah, so just keep it simple. And I just read this quote. I read this quote by Harry Kane some 3 hours earlier at midnight, when he came out and basically tried to defend himself after Gary Lineker's scathing criticism of him against Denmark, whereby, and this is a direct quote from Kane, he says that everyone has got their opinion, but the bottom line is we haven't won anything as a nation for a long time. And a lot of these players were part of that, so they know how tough it is. All I would say is remember what it is like to wear the shirt. And in some way or in some strange way, I think Harry Kane himself has a point here when it comes to trying to get over that finish line, trying to win silverware for England after however many decades it's been now since the World Cup, the one and only World Cup major trophy won in '66 back on home soil. It's one thing to be good for your club, and a whole different other thing when it comes to actually playing together as a nation on an international level, when all these English players, they put aside their egos, they put aside their own personal agendas, their own personal notions of glory as far as winning silverware and captaining your country is concerned. For me, as an English fan, as an England fan, I would just stick with the team. But because this is only a short-term tournament, it's not like the lads have been playing together an entire year, and we are now just only getting into like the proper knockout stages of, let's say, the Euros or even a Europa League. Just keep it simple. Just play what you're familiar with. And as far as Southgate is concerned, he should also just keep his tactics simple. Play man-to-man football. Just try to work the openings and get the chances the way the lads, usually do with their top football. I wouldn't necessarily say that it's all doom and gloom for England. And if there ever was a better time to have, say, a bad result, the group stages is probably the best time to get it done. So let's just hope that the Danish draw would be the last draw England ever have in this tournament. And I just do hope that England do kick on against Slovenia. And here's to England winning their final group game against Slovenia and just going on all the way to the finals, hopefully, and doing one better than the last time they played the final against Italy and narrowly lost out on penalties. Back to you, Mr. Stroker.
Right, thank you for that, Chang. Thank you, that was good. I want you all to play Football Manager now with the squad. So, Chris, Trent's coming for a lot of stick, justified criticism in my mind, right, as well. And people have criticised Kane from dropping deep and all that, although I knew that was going to happen. I knew Gallagher would come on again. You could predict, you didn't have to be bright football fan to know what was going to happen during the game with the changes. So your Southgate now, what or not, right? It doesn't even have to be him. Who would you drop, and what team would you pick? And also bear that in mind in the fact that we've already qualified, because it doesn't matter what happens. We have qualified with 4 points. we are through. It's just a question whether we finish top of the group and give a miss to France and Germany, or finish second. And I'm not sure we meet if we were to finish second. You know, so who would you pick, and why, as well?
Well, listen. If he's looking for that, I don't know, missing piece, for example, that I haven't quite found it yet, I'd stick Wharton on. Why not? If he's the closest thing in midfield, right? Stick him next to Rice for the last game. You've got nothing to lose. As you said, we're qualified already, right? So nothing to lose. Okay. So I'd put Wharton and Rice in the mid, and Cole Palmer. I play him out on the right. I put Ollie Watkins up front because I thought that he was quite sprightly the other day. Looking to get in behind, making runs. And I put Gordon on the left. Why not? I mean, that's the change I'd make. Regarding Bellingham, I'd make him sit out. I'm just a bit, like I said before, and I'd put Foden in his natural place, which is 10. I mean, so what have you got? You've got the back four, for example, which I wouldn't change unless you want to give them a rest, right? So players like, I don't know, Gomez or whoever you got else. I can't remember who you got. And possibly play him at left back. Then, I don't know, play Trippier at right back. I don't know, give people a rest.
Trippier's got an injury. Trippier's a doubt for Tuesday.
Right, okay, thanks for that, Ian. So, I don't know, just change it up a bit. Gomez at left back, that's what he's been doing, whatever. And then, I don't know, if you want to change the back four, that's fine. It's not a concern for me. The mid, so you've got Rice and Wharton, you've got Foden as 10, Cole Palmer on the right, Gordon on the left, and Watkins up front. Just as an example, or Tony, I don't know. But I thought Tony, Watkins was quite good the other day. So I'd do that. 4-2-3-1, or 4-3-3. Depends. It's all very similar, but depends on what you want to do. That's what I'd do. Why not?
Same question to you, Ian. Who would you pick?
Well, I mean, if he's going to stick with the double pivot, I think part of the problem is he has one plan A, and he doesn't change it. He's going to play 4-2-3-1. I'm going to be staggered if he does anything different, because that's the only way he knows how to play, and that's, I think, been part of the problem that we've got with the personnel he's got. Doesn't really fit the players, in my opinion. But if you're going to play the double pivot, why doesn't he? I mean, Gallagher was playing for Chelsea in a deep line midfield role, rather than playing him as an 8 or a 10. Play him alongside Rice. I think that would work. I don't know anything about Wharton, so to stick him in, stick him into an international, and it's maybe not crucial, but. There's a real lack of momentum, and I think he'll want to get momentum. Play Gallagher there if he wants to play the double pivot. I mean, I agree with you about Trent. It was an interesting idea, but he should have been trying it 6 months ago, when he must have known Calvin Phillips wasn't going, and he must have known that Jordan Henderson wasn't going. Must have known. At least if he didn't know, then he's really not doing his job properly. As I say, I would play 4-3-3 and play Rice, and then alongside Bellingham. I think he was excellent in the first game, but like everybody else, was poor against Denmark. And then, as I said earlier, I'd be playing Saka right. I'd be playing Gordon left, and I would go for Palmer in the middle. But it's a toss. He's got 4 centre forwards. He's given himself plenty of options. Two more things. One, plenty of teams have gone on and won European and World Champion World Cups from a worse position than England are in now. So it's anything but all lost. I just think it's been the manner of the performances. And you say, how are we seriously going to play well or win if we end up against a France or a Germany? Because and this has been the problem under Southgate. It's been the problem for England, that the soon as we come up against anybody half decent, we get put out, and therein lies the problem. And I suspect that might happen again. There was something else I was going to say as well. There was something else. I'll come back to it when I remember. But you haven't given us your own opinion, Adrian. So
I'm going to after. I will. No, I'm not going to listen. I'm not going to sidestep it. Don't worry. I've got my opinion, and it's so far it's different to both of yours. But I'm gonna Chang. What players would you pick for tomorrow's game, and why? I mean, when we have qualified, so I mean, like, you could rest players if you wanted to, but I'm not trying to lead you in any way at all whatsoever, right? Who would you play?
So if England have already qualified, I think it's only it only makes sense, or rather it's only practical, maybe even logical to a certain extent, to give the likes of an Aberrache Eze, Cole Palmer, maybe even Conor Gallagher, basically players who ended the season on a high, players who were really flying for their clubs, and who were really on form before the season ended, and this summer international tournament, continental tournament took place. I wouldn't necessarily drop Harry Kane just yet, because England still need a sort of leadership spearhead to see them over the line, to get them over the line, and to sort of rally the troops when the chips are down for them. But yeah, a lot of those players, especially if, let's say, Jordan Pickford, if you could, or rather, if you would not entirely put the blame squarely on his shoulders for Denmark's goal, but if he does show some sort of defensive frailties at the back, maybe give Ramsdale a chance in goal, pretty much the same way, you know, we would give our second string goalkeepers a chance whenever the likes of Hugo Lloris didn't perform back when he was still playing with us. But yeah, I think there is still a lot of the squad that we haven't really seen yet for England in this tournament, especially when you look at the substitutions, or rather questionable substitutions that Gareth Southgate made in the first two games. Again, this goes back to what I was saying a lot earlier at the beginning of the show, where Southgate should just keep it simple. If it even means going back to a simple 4-4-2, just try to get the basics right, get the players playing together as a unit, rather than just being all over the place and not really playing the kind of football which we know the players can, and would very much, or rather, should I say, they are more likely than not to be able to excel for England the same way they have been for their clubs, if only they just, you know, had some form, or rather some idea as how to play together as a unit. Oh yeah, thank you very much, Chris.
Yeah.
I heard this. Switzerland are 1-0 up against Germany, so it would appear that Switzerland are going to qualify ahead of Scotland and Hungary. That's interesting to see. Although I would keep my eyes peeled on this. Germany being Germany, I don't think they're going to.
I almost scored the second.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't even paying attention to that when I was speaking earlier. But thank you for the update. I might switch back to that once I'm done with this. But yeah, again, against Slovenia, I mean, if the game is already considered to be a dead rubber, or, you know, a foregone conclusion that whatever happens, England are going to make it through to the knockout stages, just give the second stringers, the bench warmers, a chance, give them a run out, and you never know. I mean, one of these players who come on in their final group game, they might have something to prove. They may have something that they would offer differently to Southgate, and maybe even to England, if, you know, Southgate really needs to call upon these bench warmers in the knockout stages. And who knows? Because we all know that the international tournaments, whether it's the World Cup, the Euros, the Copa America, or even the AFCON, a lot of these players, they know that this is their chance to shine, to put themselves on the global market for potential suitors. It's a sort of a come and get me call for some of these players. So if ever any of these players get the chance to shine for England, now is their time. And yeah, I would really give a lot of thought to playing the likes of an Eberechi Eze, Cole Palmer, Conor Gallagher, and even Aaron Ramsdale in the final group game against Slovenia. Back to you, Mr. Stroker.
Right.
Can I just intercede?
Go on.
I'm just looking at the table, and England have got 4 points. The other two have got, well, Denmark and Slovenia got 2 points, and Serbia got 1. So if we lose to Slovenia, they go to 5. Serbia, if Denmark win, they go to 5 as well. Serbia will get knocked out with 1 point, and we go to 4. So we've been up third in that table, right? And so we really need to win.
I don't think that's right.
So,
is because it's not just 2 from each group that go through.
No, it's third. It's 3. It's the top 3. It's the best 3 out of whatever. It's 8. It's the top 8 or something like that, or top 6 or whatever it is. So we really need to win that. You know, Adrian, I think you said before that we're already classified. Well, looking at it, we're not directly classified. We could come in as the best 3rd, but still, I think we need to win that. So I wouldn't be just because I didn't know that, you know, what the league, what the table looked like. But looking at it now, 4-2-2-1, we have to win yes or yes, you know, to get that direct classification, either as 1st or 2nd or whatever, you know, whatever it means.
But if what I'm saying is, we play Slovenia and Serbia play Denmark.
Yeah.
Well, any result, a draw gives both them teams 3 points, and we've got 4. We're above them, right? A draw gives them 3 points each. They've got 2 points each.
That would mean if we draw with Slovenia, we get 5 and they get 3.
No, if they draw, we've qualified virtually anyway, because they've got 2 points each, right?
If we draw,
they can only get 3 points. If one of them wins, one of them's got 5, and we've still got 4. You'd be asking a lot of the team with 1 point to win.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, because Slovenia are playing us. So if Slovenia win, if Slovenia beat us, they go to 5. If Denmark,
and they bottom or Serbia bottom?
Serbia bottom.
All right. Okay. All right.
That's what I'm trying to get to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So with that said,
go wonky.
We really need to hope Denmark doesn't win, and a draw would suit us. If not, Denmark presumably are going to beat Serbia. Presumably, we definitely need to win to go through. So all that we've said has all been for nothing, because we definitely need to keep our first choice goalkeeper, and we're not seeing Wharton play, and we're not seeing Cole Palmer as a centre forward.
So we need a point.
But we're saying that we need to go out and win.
So we need a point. Now we move to my take on this, right? Which again, you've all made good points. I mean, no one's right and no one's wrong when it comes to an opinion on who to pick and who to play and whatever.
Definitely.
What I would do is I would stick with the 4-2-3-1 system. I would be a bit more bold. I'm not sure Southgate would do this. Obviously, the midfield pivot for me would be Rice and Bellingham. And the reason I would pick Bellingham, I'd want him to play as in the Gascoigne role as a number 8. And because he'll spray balls. And I also think, right, that he's better than beating the press, because Trent couldn't handle the pressure and giving balls away left, right and centre in that game. Now, this is where it gets interesting. To me, Kane hasn't been an out-and-out number 9 since we had Pochettino. He's always played, he's got up there, but he's always been dropping back. I would play, that would mean, with those two in the midfield pivot, I would play Kane as the number 10, right? As the number 10, because he plays there anyway, false 9. He's always dropping back deep anyway. I'd play him as the number 10. I'd play Foden on the left. And I would probably play Gordon on the right, because I think he's more aggressive and gives it front. And then my team, with Kane as a number 10, you can play Watkins as your number 9 up front. So then you've got Kane behind Watkins, backed up by Foden and Bowen. I mean, it could be Saka. You've got Gordon as well. I mean, and I just think that would give the team so much more kick. Now, obviously, if we lose the midfield battle, my theory goes out the window, right? But I just think Rice and Bellingham, you shouldn't give the ball away. And he should be told, play in the number 8 role. We want you in the number 8 role. You've also got to do a bit of defending as well, right? Rice will sit back. not get forward. And I just think if you can incorporate Watkins and Kane by playing Kane as the number 10, providing he's fit in, do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
Absolutely. So what do you think, guys? What do you think of my team?
I'm going to have to change the battery on my laptop, so I just want to talk about Bellingham. What I said before about Bellingham is that if he's going to be rolling around and staying on all fours when he loses the ball in a dispute, he's not going to be doing any defensive work because he's going to be moaning to the ref all the time because he's an entitled little twat. Sorry about that, but that's what I've seen. What you need is warriors that when you lose the ball, you have to come back and defend. You have to try and get it back. So yes, I agree that he's a number 8, which means attacking and defend, right? In attacking and defense. But if he's going to be moaning, right, and his attitude is in the wrong place, you're going to need someone else. But I do agree on paper. I agree with you wholeheartedly that as an 8, he would work 100%. But his attitude, it's his attitude that makes me doubt, Adrian. That's.
I tend to notice with these players who like some excuse when they lose the ball and they fall over and lay down and feign injury because of it. That doesn't tend to happen like in the defensive third of the pitch. That always happens in more forward position in midfield or up front when they think they can lie down and pretend because they made a mistake, feign an injury, you know. Things.
So there you
go. If you're in the 8 role and you're in front of our penalty area and you go down and you have made a mistake, then it should be on your mind. You've got to get up quick. You know what I mean? That's all I would say to that. You know,
but it's not happening though. It's not happening, and when it doesn't happen, you have to question whether that player, that for that specific role, is giving you 100%, right? Because he could have all the quality. He's got all the skill that you need. He knows how to feint, right, which is a basic in football. He knows how to feint. He knows how to, control the ball first touch. He can ping it in. He scores goals. He comes in from the second, as we call it in Spain, a segunda línea, which is a second line, in from behind, so to speak. Yeah, he can do all that. It's his attitude that stinks, right? And what I've been seeing. So, can you count on him to do what's necessary in that moment when you have to get back and play the defensive role of a number 8? Can he? Because if he can, he'd be perfect. But I'm just seeing that he's not, because he's rolling around and looking at the ref and, are you going to give it to me? No, you're not, because it's not a foul, mate. And football's a contact sport. Do you know what I mean? And that's the doubt that I have over Bellingham as a number 8. That's, but I agree with you, but will he do it?
Yeah. Chang, do you think Bellingham could play the number 8 role?
Well, there are 2 thoughts to this, 2 school of thoughts as to Bellingham and even Foden too. Just adding to what Mr. Chris has mentioned earlier, Bellingham for me would actually suit more as a 10 rather than an 8. But if he does play the 8, then someone else, whoever it is, who Gareth Southgate fancies playing that 10, they have a massive responsibilities on their shoulders. Not so much as a playmaker, but more so of like being the glue that holds the whole team together. Unless Kane himself fancies being like a sort of like an auxiliary 10, if that makes any sense, dropping back, helping up, and trying to get the wingers forward into better positions, better goal scoring positions. Because for me, there aren't too many options right now for England to deploy in that position. So if your star player, who has just lifted the Champions League trophy less than a month ago, if he's not up to scratch, then I believe that England may have a big problem in this tournament, seeing as how James Maddison and also Jack Grealish aren't part of the squad. So it's going to be a monumental task, really, for anyone to even step up and play that role. But yeah, I mean, for Bellingham, I think this tournament might have come a bit too soon for him to really like try to establish that role, or rather make that role or that position his own. And yeah, I mean, there are other players who can step up on the day if and when time calls for them to fill his boots. But I honestly feel that he still is the best player for that position. And for England to get anything out of this tournament, I think a lot of it depends on just how well he will be able to perform in the knockout stages. I wouldn't necessarily say that it's all down to him, because we have seen the likes of Cole Palmer, Conor Gallagher, and even a Morgan Gibbs-White, who sadly isn't part of the England squad as well. But there are other players who can step up. But this again depends massively on just how Gareth Southgate deploys his team, how he sets his team up, how he goes about with the tactics and the formations and even the strategy during match day. If Bellingham isn't in the match day squad or isn't performing, I would look towards the final group game to see whether Bellingham is indeed the answer for England in that position, and whether there are other players as well, as what both Mr. Chris and Mr. Math have already alluded to earlier, trying to fill that void and also, giving Southgate options going forward if things don't work out with a plan A. But again, a lot of this is down to Southgate and his managerial nuance. And yeah, I think a lot of our questions will be answered when England take to the pitch in 48 hours against Slovenia. And yeah, let's just see what happens first in that final group game before we lay down a marker as to whom Gareth Southgate should be selecting for his starting 11 come the knockout stages.
Ian,
back to you, Mr.
Do you think Bellingham could play the number 8 role, or would you rather stick Gallagher there?
He can play the number 8 role, yes.
Yeah, well, he can, but I think let's go back to what I'm going to go back to what I think Southgate will do, not what we think he should do. I think Bellingham's so good he can play pretty well whatever role he's asked to. And I hear what Chris is saying, but this is someone who's been playing for Madrid, and they do fall down a lot. But he also, a bit like Grealish, does get fouled a lot. So. I'm not. He didn't play well on. He didn't play well on what night was it? Whatever night it was, Thursday night. So, but nobody did. So, I think that I don't think he'll make many changes because it's not Southgate's way, and I think he'll stick with the 4-2-3-1, and I think he'll stick with Kane as his number 9. But yeah, Kane will do whatever Kane wants because that's what Kane is. And I think he'll play Gallagher instead of Trent. I think if he plays Trent again, I think it's like, what the heck? But I don't think he'll make any other changes than that, unless Trippier isn't fit, in which case, who will he play? Who will he play? Gomez at left back? I'm not sure who's there he can play. Probably Gomez.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who else, but that's the only changes I think he'll make. I mean, that's one of the things about Southgate. He's not an overreactor. He wouldn't overreact to anything, So he's certainly not going to make wholesale changes to his team, or I don't think change the tactics. But I think if he plays Gallagher in there alongside Rice, I think that might work. I mean, but there's got to be. It's the energy levels and it's the commitment levels that I think are disappointing people. No one will give a toss what the tactics are. If there's energy and there's pressure, and England get more than one goal.
Yeah, I mean,
Mainoo could do a job as well. I like Mainoo. I think Mainoo, his spatial awareness is very good.
Yeah.
His first touch is very good. His disposition to be available for his other teammates is very good. And I think his general demeanor is pretty positive as well, regardless of his age or his experience or lack of it. I think that he'd be a pretty good option as well. What Ian is saying regarding Gallagher, for example, I think that his experience, for example, would get him the job over Mainoo in that regard in the mid next to Rice. But I'd go for Mainoo, for example, if Bellingham wasn't, for example.
Mainu is an exciting player, probably one for the World Cup rather than these Euros. But yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, he's one of those players. You know, we used to call them bums on seat players that, you know, you would pay money to go and sit and watch them play. And, you know, when they get the ball, you just lean forward or come out of your seat. He's that kind of player. He's got a massive future, the boy. Massive.
Very good.
It seems like our midfield problem is compounded by the fact that we haven't got more than one left back in the squad, and he happens to be injured. And let's hope he's close to recovery. But then you're talking about fitness, having not played any games. And my issue with Trippier on the right is, as you go up, a left-footed player will go bombing down the left-hand side, obviously, and he would interchange with Foden on the left, and then you'll find that your left-footed fullback will probably find himself down by the corner flag at some times, or he'll interchange with Foden on there. Well, when you've got a right-footed player, his tendency is to cut in. You've got Foden there, and Foden's in there trying to make space for himself. Then Foden's getting in the way of Bellingham, and all of a sudden you've got a bit of a crowd on the left-hand side of the pitch, which doesn't help, and there's less space, right? And now you've done, you've clogged yourself up, and you've made less space. So, I mean, whether you're just better off saying, like, if it was Trippier was fit, just stay there, mate. Just stay there.
It seems very, very unorthodox, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's very asymmetric kind of, very uncomfortable.
And to compound it, because our midfielder, and like we know, everyone knows that most games are won and lost in midfield. And our midfield is just disjointed and lack cohesion. The whole team has lacked cohesion. You know, I mean, to me, this is why I'd give Kane the 10 role, because I think it's his best position. Even if Foden's better than him there, even if Bellingham's better than him there, I just think it would suit Kane. It would give you the option of playing Watkins in front of him. And it might not work. Do I see it happening? No. I've got to be honest. No.
I don't think Bellingham's better than him. I think that Bellingham is just better coming in from behind than him, because Kane, as we know, is a better all-round creator. He's a creator, he's a finisher, he's the whole kind of package as we know from his days at Spurs, and et cetera, et cetera. Bellingham is better coming in from behind and surprising, as for example I've seen this year in the Liga. And I don't think he's a better creator. Definitely not. I think Foden's a better creator, and he's a better generator of chances than Bellingham is. Bellingham is an all-round kind of like a midfielder that you can do a bit of everything, but I don't think that in honesty, I don't think that he's a better generator of the game, so to speak. That's my humble opinion. I mean,
Yeah, my fear with players like Bellingham and Kane is that sometimes it should be a team game, and sometimes if you're looking for one of them to be your main man all the time, that could have an adverse effect on the actual team structure and the way the team plays. Because you may be constantly looking for Bellingham, you might be constantly looking for Kane or whatever, and when you want a game to flow and you want you have a good interchange of the passes across the team, not look back to give it to one player who you think's your star, or the other player's your star all the time. You should do you should play your own game, right, and not do things that are out of your character. So Bellingham is a wonderful talent, though. He is a wonderful talent.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we'll see. So okay, we sort of hammered the England bit, right? I'd like your take, guys, on what you thought of the Euros so far. Any teams that have stood out for you? Any particular players that stood out for you? Chris, go.
I've been quite surprised, actually. The ones I've been doing predictions, and I've got more wrong, because I thought, obviously, on paper, you think it's going to go one way, it's going to go totally the other. Serbia, I'm quite surprised at. I thought they would do quite, better than what they've been doing, because they've got great players. And they've been doing absolutely awful. They could qualify anyway, and go on a winning stint. But for now, 1 point out of 4, I think it's quite And then I don't know. I mean, Albania have surprised me. You know, they're not. You know, there's nothing special, but they're putting up a fight, and they're Italy against Spain. That was quite. I mean, I put 3-1. Maybe I was a bit overzealous. I don't know, but the home team for myself was obviously going to be a home victory for myself. But I thought Spain dominated quite a lot, and Italy didn't do that much. I think they possibly had an off day. But under Spalletti, they're kind of getting into the mix, like a regeneration kind of thing. And then obviously Germany, you've got Germany who's they're obviously losing now, but they're well away. They're well away into the next round anyway with the 3 out of 3. So Portugal are doing what they're doing under a manager that is a proven manager in these kind of competitions. With Roberto Martinez, did a great job at Belgium, for Belgium, and now he's doing a great job at Portugal. He's doing what he's doing. And other surprises, I mean, not really. I think Romania got me off my seat at the beginning, but then, I got sat down again, after last night. I think so. It's going to be interesting. The next stage is going to be interesting.
Ian, your take on the Euros so far?
Haven't watched much of it. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm one of these people that tolerates international football. I'll watch it, and I'll watch the England matches, and I'll watch the the semi-finals, finals, quarterfinals, whoever's playing in them. But international football doesn't float my boat much. The other thing is, politically, it really annoys me because I see this international football as being a battle where FIFA and UEFA are trying increasingly to take control away from national associations. So you end up with an increasing number of tournaments. When, for example, Wenger's involved with FIFA saying we should play the World Cup every 2 years, and what have you. You've got the African Cup of Nations, which is every year, is it, or every 2? You've got the Copa America as well, and it's club football that loses out, and most of us are most loyal to our clubs. So I haven't watched much. I had Friday night's my music quiz night, so I don't see the Friday football. So I missed Germany's annihilation of Scotland, which made me just as well. I watched the other Scotland games. I have watched the England games. I saw Spain and Italy because that's one of those games that makes me think, yeah, I got to watch that. And the Spanish performance was to me the most impressive performance. The game I missed, or I picked up the end of it, was Turkey and Georgia. That looked by some it's the one match, if you are watching every match, but you say, look, I've got to take a couple off because I just need a rest. That was the game you would take off. That was the one you say, I'll get the result of that, on my phone later in the day. And what I saw of it was absolutely unbelievable, the way the Georgians were attacking and just got sucker punched at the end, leaving their goalkeeper up front. But it was a staggering last few minutes that I saw. Wonderful game of football. But beyond that, don't know, don't care. Expect England to go out. I'll watch the better teams at the end, and then look forward to the transfer window and coming on and talking about stuff I know about, like Tottenham.
Chang, what have you enjoyed about the Euros so far?
That's a very tough question to have to ask because it's still in the group stages. But from the first 2 matches, from the first 2 group matches, I was really impressed with Portugal. Their recent victory against Turkey as well. I think they could have scored a great lot more against Turkey. And I do expect them to actually go quite a long way into this tournament, despite the likes of Bernardo Silva, Bruno Fernandes, and Cristiano Ronaldo all aging now. But I think Portugal have been my surprise package of this tournament so far. The likes of Netherlands, Spain, even France to a certain extent, and Italy, they have sort of flattered to deceive, but even Switzerland, if you look at their current form as well, I think they are proving to be a surprise package. I certainly didn't expect to see them leading against Germany in the first half, but maybe as our show goes on, as the second half kicks off in about a few more minutes, we will be able to see a lot more of Switzerland in this tournament as well. So yeah, I think the standout teams for me have been Portugal, Switzerland, and you never know. You never know whether Scotland might just pull something off. Scotland might just get a plucky win against Hungary, and they might even qualify as the third best team of Group A. But yeah, it's been a lively tournament thus far. I was actually hoping for it to not produce any goalless draws in the group stages, but unfortunately, the Netherlands and France bucked that trend last week. But let's just see out the remaining group matches, and yeah, it's going to be quite a finish to this Euros, and I think it's anybody's tournament at this stage. Not many teams are, or rather, not many nations are really grabbing this opportunity to showcase what they are well and truly made up of. But yeah, I would actually fancy Portugal right now to make it to the semi-finals, or even make it all the way to the finals right now, based on their current form. And if England are to even go anywhere near, the quarterfinals or even the semi-finals, they really have to step up massively, big time. But yeah, those are my surprise teams of the tournament so far. And let's just enjoy this final round of group matches and see how the knockout stages shape themselves over the coming week. Back to you, Mr. Stoker.
Yeah, Belgium came out with a point to prove yesterday. I thought they looked good. Lukaku had goals disallowed, and they did look good. Georgia have been they've been a joy to watch. I mean, was it the game against Czechoslovakia? I mean, that was an exciting game. And what I've particularly enjoyed about this tournament, the few games that I've watched, is the fact normally when you go into a competition, it's almost become traditional that all teams play not to lose their first game and they get off to a boring start. But this competition has been different. If you've been backing goals in them early games, you'd have won a few quid, So yeah, so I've it's been enjoyable. Obviously, we'll see how England get on. Apart from watching England, it's been enjoyable. So we'll see what happens Tuesday. I think we're going to go through. I think we'll go through as group winners, and then we'll take it from there. But what we all want to see from England is a performance, isn't it? But we're going to do a post-match show on Wednesday after the game anyway. So we'll save our critique for there. Copa America, guys, I haven't watched any games. They're on late anyway. All I know is that Argentina beat Canada 2-0. I know in a recent game, Romero was getting rave reviews and all that. Have you watched any of that? Or don't think this is going to be a long conversation? None of it.
I would like to offer something from what I watched early this morning between Jamaica and Mexico. For me, that match was a showcase of Michael Antonio, the Jamaican from West Ham, and also Santiago Jimenez, the Feyenoord striker that we've been looking at from Mexico. Right now, just based on that 90 minutes alone that I watched between Jamaica and Mexico, I know which of those number nines I would rather have at Spurs right now. And I think it's going to surprise a lot of people to hear me say that I would actually prefer Michael Antonio from West Ham over Santiago Jimenez, just based on what I saw between Jamaica and Mexico. Michael Antonio did get the ball into the net for Jamaica early in the second half, although that was rightly ruled for offside. And sadly, he wasn't able to open the scoring for Jamaica, despite Jamaica making the most of their, or rather, Jamaica not making the most of their chances. They had the better of the chances between those two nations. And for Santiago Jimenez, although he didn't score, I think he did well enough for the Mexican side to hold up play for the team, to create as many chances as he did. Almost like an auxiliary 10 for Mexico. But yeah, I think Santiago Jimenez for Mexico has still a lot to prove, not only for Feyenoord but for Mexico. And if we are serious about getting him, I honestly don't see. I can't see him properly challenging Richarlison anytime soon for that number 9 spot in the Spurs team. If he is to be the answer, or rather, if he is to be the solution for us moving forward in a big Ange ball system, I think he really has to step up massively. And as of right now, he wouldn't necessarily be my first choice signing.
I think our
summer
first
signing.
choice, Chang, is Tony. I mean,
yeah,
my understanding is
yeah.
that Tony is very much the first choice.
So yeah, I totally get you there, which is why
we'll move on to the transfer window now. Yeah, Tony. We've also today Solanke's head reared its ugly head again, as did Jonathan David. So I don't know if you guys have got any comments on those players.
Who was the first one, Adrian?
You've got Solanke again.
Oh no,
yeah. Tony, obviously Jimenez, and you've got Jonathan David. And actually, one of the players who doesn't get much of looking, who I like looking at video, he's 28, 29, but he would be okay for a couple of seasons till our youngsters kicked on a bit. It's actually Garassi at Stuttgart. I like the look of it, actually.
Yeah, I've heard that name mentioned.
But, he won't be everyone's cup of tea, obviously,
No, I'm not keen on Solanke. Or at least I'm not keen on Solanke at the 60 million quid that's been mooted. I mean, I think if you're saying to me we're getting Solanke for 20 million and we're bringing in Tony as well and Richarlison is going, then I'm happy. I think that gives you, that gives you a bit more strength and a bit more strength in depth and a bit more ability. I just don't see Solanke as a top 4. I missed that. A top 4, a top 4 centre forward player. I mean, he's not been. England have got 4 centre forwards at the Euros, and he ain't one of them. So what does that tell you?
Yeah.
So Solanke, not for me, not in a million years. I'd be disappointed. Jonathan David, I think every club, there's not a club in Europe that wouldn't take him if he was available. And I think has he not got a release clause that's relatively affordable? At least affordable for everyone but Daniel.
He probably has. He plays for Lille, doesn't he, in France? Yeah. So he probably has got a release clause because they all have there. The French, they like to sell players as long as please no one with a surname with the letter N, please, like a NZ,
yeah, absolutely,
or Ndombele. We seem to be cursed with players that have got an N in their surname, right? Yeah. The other thing that might have raised a few eyebrows is the fact that now that Elise is going to Bayern Munich, done deal,
allegedly.
What chance does that lessen Spurs' chances of getting Eze? What do you think, guys?
Depends on what Palace are going to do.
Yeah,
because Palace, obviously, and that's just a simple answer, though, isn't it? But if they brought in Kamada supposedly to buffer either Eze or Elise's departure, but if they're going to get 60 mil for Elise, another 60 mil for Eze, they've just spent a packet of peanuts and half a glass of Coke for Kamada.
Yeah.
Then they've got enough money to go out and buy another 3 players. You know what I mean? So it all depends on. I mean, just keeping Eze for the sake of keeping Eze, just because Elise's gone.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. Yeah.
Chris, there'll be a lot of interest in Gui after his performances for England so far. He's been absolutely first class.
Yeah.
I mean, in the game against Denmark there's always one positive you can take out of a game, however however bad it was. And the positive was his performance at centre half. You know, really, when we talked about, you know, when you talk about players like Maguire and Dunk and what have you, that just give you the willies every time they get the ball, this boy is so composed. And even when he made that mistake, and I can't remember who it was then that went through and he recovered, and I'm thinking, I see a bit of Ledley or Van der Ven in that, the speed with which he recovered. I was so impressed with that.
That's exactly what I'm claiming. I'm thinking in Spanish. That's exactly what I'm demanding from Bellingham, right? I'm not saying that Bellingham is a bad player. Of course, I'd be stupid to say otherwise. But the same as Mark Guehi lost the position, or lost, you know, and he recuperated, he regained, right? He got back because he knows what he has to do, right? Because it's innate. You got another one, you know, just sitting there wondering whether he's going to get the foul or not. The play's gone on for half an hour already, and he's still wondering why the ref hasn't given him the bloody foul that doesn't exist. You've got Mark Guehi that's down into, you know, he's doing the whole lot, and he's recuperating the ball or the position, or he's concentrating on his job. And that is a difference for me when I want to go and sign a play, for example. Do you know what I mean? I don't care how good your first touch is, or if you can get around the park. I want to see your attitude as well. So I agree with you. Mark Guehi's and Anderson's having a good Euros as well for Denmark, who's his partner at Palace. So you know, I mean, there's a lot of good players out there. But you know, I don't think Palace are going to be too troubled whether they get in 120 million for 2 players. They'll just go out and buy. You know what I mean? And they'll probably go out and get another 2 or 3 championship players that are extremely good quality, and to bolster their players, or even from Glasner. Glasner is a very good manager. He'll probably have a lot of knowledge on the German league, on the Austrian league. He'll probably have a lot of players already lined up, just in case these two cash cows leave. You know, so I'm not too worried whether Olise leaves, meaning Eze has to stay. I don't see that at all. Football, we know that football doesn't work like that. But I mean, that's up to Palace as well. I mean, if he has to stay, we have to look elsewhere. So, you know, but I don't know. Currently grilling some food on a grill. Well, that's what you do, Lawrence. That's what you do, mate. You grill on the grill. Nice to see you here, mate.
Love an international show like that. Someone from the States. I saw Mr. Daigle was on as well from Toronto. So good international content.
Yeah. I think Jonathan David. I'm not sure that he's the striker that we need, because he's always been a right forward. So I don't know why. You know, he's not even a right winger. He's a right forward. Like, I don't know. I just don't see it. Not the man for me to spearhead our attack. You know, like Solanke isn't the man I see.
Chris, have you seen Nisri play for Sevilla?
Yeah, of course. Very good.
You like him?
Very good. Yeah, he's good. He's good. Pretty quick, pretty nimble. But I see him more as a counter-attacking kind of player, because he's good. You know, and if we're going to play on the front foot, if we're going to have the ball, then he's going to be the target man. I don't see him as a link-up play man, and I think we need a link-up play man that can drop deep. Do you know what I mean? That is not fighting. That is not always fighting with your centre backs. He's going to drop deep. He's going to be able to distribute. He's going to link up play. He's going to release your wingers so that the wingers can get in the back and can cut the ball or can. Do you know what I mean? He's not going to be a target man, and I think that he's more of a target man, or he's on a counter attack kind of thing, because his link up plays isn't that. It's not that he's not good at it. It's just that he hasn't been used that way.
Chris, can I ask you a question? Where do you think Nico Williams is going to be playing next season?
Bilbao, Barcelona. One of the two.
Sorry, you said Bilbao?
Or Barcelona.
Or Barcelona, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Only those two. Unless something silly happens. Because he's so entrenched, he's not entrenched, but he's so in love and enamored with his obviously his roots, which is born in Bilbao. you know, his parents aren't Basque, but they moved over there.
Yeah.
And,
I've heard
they were
read the
born
story.
there. Yeah, sure. They love his brother Iñaki. They're always, you know, they're always talking about how they love Bilbao and what their parents did for them, and this, that, and the other. And there's only going to be, you know, if it makes sense for the club, if it makes sense for them, they're leaving. If it's going to harm the club and it's not good for them, there's no way in a million years they're going to do anything that goes against the club's will. Because they are just so respectful to the city, to the club, to the people around them, and they don't need money because they never had money. So it's not about, you know, give me £1 million a week because that's what I'm about. No, they're very loyal. They're very down to earth people, very grateful. So you know, it's not going to happen. And he's got a very good relationship with the Barcelona players at at the national team. But he's not going to afford to move. It's, you know, if the clubs come to an agreement and it makes sense for the club, fine, he'll leave. If not, he's staying put. So whether Chelsea come in, whether Man United, I've seen links to absolutely everybody. Spurs, it's not going to happen. In my opinion, it's not going to happen, which is a shame because he's a great player. But, you know, we have to think about the person as well. It's not just what we want. The player's going to have to play. And that's primarily what players do. They play.
So, my opinion is that because our midfield and forward line were pants last year, that's where we should prioritise getting our first signings in. Now, that's if obviously if Emerson goes, a right back becomes a priority. I don't think centre back's that urgent. I know we'd like one. We'd like a Calafiora. We'd like a Bob Bueno. You know, we've got Phillips and Dorothy recover from an injury. You got Vaskovic coming in next year. If worse comes,
he's gone to Belgium.
Yeah, he's got the Westerlo in Belgium for the season. At the end of the season, to us, he's got to get the points for something to get out of state. Yeah, so he's got the Westerlo in Belgium. So then, and obviously, even with left backs, not so urgent because the recruitment team obviously know they can't fill every hole in the squad. So Davis obviously has got that year to go to be the emergency left centre back or left full back. If not, all right, not the ideal situation, but that's the way it will go. But on the subject of whether Emerson goes, today there's been a bit of an update. And I think with Højbjerg and Emerson, with Højbjerg, I'm not surprised because he played so well for Denmark. But now AC Milan are linked with both Højbjerg and Emerson, both of them. So what do you guys think? Do you think he's going to go? Either of them will go to AC Milan?
I think there's every chance. Certainly, Emerson appears to be really interested in going to Milan. I mean, who wouldn't? I mean, it's a big club, big city. Højbjerg, it's funny, isn't it? Højbjerg, you watch him playing for Denmark. I mean, I wish Ellie was here. You watch him playing for Denmark, and he's a completely different player. I mean, in fairness, he was the one player last summer that I said would not fit in with Ange's style. He just isn't quick enough. He's not mobile enough for what Ange wants, and you really didn't see enough of it last season. I'm looking for this season where there's that real intensity. And Højbjerg couldn't give that. And it's important because if we want to bring in players, we are going to have to get players out the door. Have to. And if we can get, because how many times have we tried to get players out the door and it hasn't happened? We've already got rid of Ndombele. All right, we've had to rip his contract up. We haven't taken the option on Sessegnon. We've just taken the hit on that as well. So if we can get, I don't know what the money is, up to 20 million each, somewhere around that mark. Is that what we're talking?
Euros, I would think, but don't forget European clubs want a highest premium for their players and they plead poverty when they want to buy players. Apart
Daniel,
from in the good days of Real Madrid and Barcelona, of course.
Yeah.
There has been news about Jan Couto, which is the right back for Girona, and I don't know whether he belongs to Man City or not, but he was linked to Spurs today. Yes. Now he's around 25 million euros. So for example, going back to Højbjerg and Emerson Royal, if the clubs want our players, our surplus to requirement players, for example, it can happen. It all depends on us as well. Because if you go to the Jed Spence situation, right, we're looking for £7 million or whatever it is, right? And we're not going to go below that. Why not? Why can't we just get these players out the door, get them playing football, so we can free up space, so that we can get in the players that we really want? Why are we faffing about with Jed Spence's? Do you know what I mean? And it's not no risk to Jed Spence. It's a situation that blocks progression, you know?
I would only temper your comments to that as we don't really know what the prices are. And to be fair, Jed Spence is not an awful player. He's rumoured to have a bit of an attitude problem and all that. And I think there would be clubs that would pay 10 mil for him. I do, because, you know, if the clubs are out there are short of, you know, right backs and left backs, and we're talking about Italian clubs, and normally their league's full of good defenders, which is most strange. But interesting on the right back thing, you're saying Couto is at Man City. He's Brazilian, isn't he? He's like 22, I think he is.
He's 22 and he can play the whole.
Much. I think they
right
paid. I think they bought him. I'm not sure. You can.
Adrian, who is the lad that I don't know if you picked up this story that we're interested in this lad from Southampton and want to do a straight money plus presumably a player plus cash deal with Roden.
Calvarez isn't his name?
I don't know him at all.
No. He's an Argentinian. He's an Argentinian, I know, and he's like more of an attacking mid.
Yeah,
but we have been linked with him today, and we've also attacking mid. I mean, Marcus Edward has come onto the scene again at Sporting. I like the player myself. I mean, I know a lot of Spurs fans don't. I like him, but I just think these players, these attacking midfields, are being mentioned because the rumours about Eze, is he coming or is he not? Even though he's with CAA base agency with some of our players anyway, you know, which deepens the connection every time. So I'm wondering. I mean, like Marcus Edwards could do a job for us, in my opinion, but if we get Eze, you don't need him. And I want Eze. I want Eze. You know, I'm sure we all do for get Eze in. But on the Kuti thing, that's interesting because now right back again, and that's probably with the Emerson story growing now, being linked with not, you know, more than one club as well as Højbjerg is now with his fine performances. Because Kutu, because again, and you know him as well as I do, Chris, Gertrude of Feyenoord's been linked again, as has Vanderson, as in right back position, as had Archie Gray again. So, I mean, I would take any other. If I had to take one of them fullbacks for experience, I'll take the Feyenoord player. I've watched him on video, and he looks a dog. He does look a dog of a fullback. He looks like you doggy Mark II on the right. He really does. Vanderson, don't get me wrong, Vanderson looks good. Archie Gray, great prospect. I mean, Couto, I don't know nothing about him, the Argentinian Man City. The other three, I would take any one of them without even thinking about it. Because they are good, right? So your comments on those guys, have you seen them play or whatever?
Well, what I would say is that Jan Couto, the Brazilian, I was just checking, he was at Girona, but of course Girona and Man City, they've got they're like sister clubs. They've got the whole City group, and he's gone back after his loan spell. He's currently valued at 25 million euros, which if you get rid of, like say Jed Spence, or even if you don't and you get rid of Emerson, you're more or less paying for Jan Couto. He can play all up the right wing, right, which means right back, right mid, and forward, right? Yep. So you got all that covered, right? Right wing, right mid, and right back, all up and down the right. So, and he's a good defender as well. He's a very good defensively. So he's not just an attacking player; he's good defensively. The good thing about Geertruida from Feyenoord is that he's more or less the same price, give or take 5-10. It doesn't matter. But you're getting a very good player because he can cover the centre back position and the right back. Plus, he's a dog, as you said. He's very good, and he's young as well. He's not overly aged there. Plus, pricing
number 6 as well.
Yeah, but we spoke about that the other day. He played that before he got to like the first team But I mean, can he play there? I don't know. But he only played 1 or 2 times there, or 6 times before he got to the Feyenoord's first team. But he's cut his trade at, or he's learnt his trade, sorry, as a centre back, right centre back, and a right back. But he can play left centre back and left back. So he's extremely versatile in all the whole back line. So I would get Getrauda, but he's also been linked to PSG today, which is quite strange. Well, it's not strange because he's a good player, but out of nothing, I saw PSG linked to Getrauda. Now, if he's going to play right back, what does that mean for Hakimi? Because Hakimi, the Moroccan guy, either he's on the move or they want competition for him, or I don't know what's going to happen, because I don't see Hakimi losing his spot at right back for PSG anytime soon. So.
And why hasn't Slot come in for him at Liverpool then? Liverpool got FFP issues, I wonder. Why hasn't Slot come in for him?
Well, that's the thing, because I saw the opportunity for Spurs. Slot gets cold feet regarding Getrauda. So I don't know what the issues are at Liverpool are, because I would, if I was Slot, I'd go straight for Getrauda because you know him. Yeah. If you've got a centre-back problem, you can slip him in at centre-back, like for injuries or for red cards or whatever, or if you need him, as a makeshift centre back. But I'd definitely play him at right back if Trent is not a right back, if he's a midfielder, a new midfielder. But definitely, I mean, he's a guy that very, very dependable under Arne Slot. But they got cold feet. I don't know why. I mean, that's obviously news media. Make of it what you will. But I wouldn't think twice about getting Getrauda if he's already played under you for a couple of years. But we'll just have to wait and see. I'd get him, no problem. But then I'd get Jan Kolter as well. So it all depends what you want to do.
See that Højlund for Denmark, not just because he scored against England, as we were interested in before. I mean, his head has reared up as a link with us again as well.
I said that months ago. I said that. Look, last year. Sorry to interrupt. Last year, I talked about Cook Miners when I started doing it with Jose and Ellie and the whole lot. I talked about Cook Miners. And I don't know if anybody knows. He used to play for AZ Alkmaar, I think it was. I think it was them, yeah. And then Atalanta. He's had a great season, and I don't think I got lucky with that name. And I think that. And I said, I like the look of Højlund from Sporting Lisbon. And I've been following the Portuguese league this year. And Højlund looks a unit. He's disciplined. He knows what to do. He's got spatial awareness, which is what you need as a centre mid, controlling the midfield. He's got it all. And what's happening is he's coming out on every bloody newspaper and every social media. So he's very good. So, and he's young and he's but
the Rodon's attracting a lot of interest as well. I don't think we'll have no problems getting rid of him, because Southampton and Ipswich are interested, apart from Leeds, who got so much debt. I'm not sure they'll be able to buy him and whatever, unless they sell some of their stars.
But I think he wants to go to the Premier League now. I think that was always on his plan. I don't see that now to go to the Championship for Rodon as being a particularly good career move for him. I think it would have been if they'd have got promoted. It'd have been a super job. And of course, having said that, if they'd got promoted, they wouldn't need to sell out Archie Gray. The feeling is they possibly do need to sell him, and of course we could then offer them. Excuse me, I got the Mozzie's bite here, so I got the citronella candles here, and it's going down my throat. That we could give them Rodon as a mate weight in a deal for Archie Gray. I mean, this boy Archie Gray seems to have it all. I can't say I've watched him that much, but he seems to be able to play in so many positions that I think that would suit Ange so well, to have a player of that versatility. But I don't know. We sit and we speculate. We listen to names. I would imagine a number of these names, because Tottenham don't just have one target. No. We know that they have maybe 4 or 5 different targets for each position.
Yeah.
And at this stage, that there is there'll be discussions with players, with their agents, with the clubs to find out, what or what is or what is not realistic, and then you start to be able to firm in on your targets. I mean, we don't know if Palace are saying, well, if Elise goes to Bayern Munich. I'm sorry, I'm just distracted by the football because somebody is down very, very badly hurt. There's a lot of treatment people on there. I don't know if anybody's got that.
Vargas, is it?
Is it? I don't know, but there's. I think some of my phone's flashing up as well. Some of my mates are suggesting this looks like a penalty to Hungary. So we will see. I'm obviously a little bit behind on watching on iPlayer. But so I would imagine most of these players are on the club's radar, and it's only when things become clearer particularly after the Euros and after the Copa America, that we'll see. And I'm going to imagine that once everything gets sorted out with the competitions, that the players will come in quite quickly. We know that Ange likes his players to be brought in as early as possible. Clearly, that couldn't happen. I mean, what numpty, to use a good Scottish word for idiot, decided that the transfer window should open on the day the Euros started? I mean, you have to be a particular kind of imbecile to come up with that. I mean, you seriously do. I just don't get it. I just don't get how these guys' brains work. So this is obviously going to cause. And if England go all the way, if England go all the way, the final is on the 14th of July. And I can't remember exactly when pre-season training starts, and then they go off on about the 22nd or 23rd. Where are they going? They're going to Japan. I can't remember.
I'll come to the friendlies at the end. We do them last.
All right. Okay. Yeah. I'm waffling on anyway.
No. Listen, I like everyone to have their say, right? No opinions are wrong. They're all valid. They all come at different angles. We may disagree with each other, but it's nice and mature and sensible the way I like it, right? Guys, I don't know if any of you have heard much. I mean, I haven't heard much about Reguilon and Gill going. They're obviously going to go. I don't know what Brentford's situation is. Will is at fullback now because they had him, they let his loan expire. He came back to us. And also Man United. I mean, if this Luke Shaw injury is bad, I mean, they had left back problems last year, Man United. That's why they took Reguilon. And he could do a job for someone. I wanted to see a bit more of him, but he's one of those players you put trust and faith in the management team and those at the training ground, because he was never given a look in. And there's always a reason for that, isn't it? If the player don't put the effort in or they just don't, he's good enough, blah, blah, blah. With Gill, I think he'll end up back in Spain. Lo Celso's got a little bit of gravitas. Real Betis and even Lazio are interested. I think Lazio have got a bit of an aging squad. And they're talking about changing things. I don't know what you guys think about Reguilon, Gill or Lo Celso. I think they'll go. That's what Spence Road. And I think the 7 will go. I think Spence Road and Reguilon, Gill, Lo Celso, Højbjerg and Emerson will go. I think those 7 will go. Do you guys think they will?
Yeah, I agree. All of them.
Yeah.
All of them. Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. Let's move on to, the friendlies, yeah? Because your point about the numpty is very valid. I've been in agreement with it. Ian, I've been shouting for seasons before I even did these sort of shows, why is it we're never back at the training ground a month before the season starts? Had all the pre-season done out the way, the players' holidays are done out the way and all that. Now, I don't mind coming back in that month and playing friendlies on home soil, getting the team together, but it always gets me going. Well, the reason we're probably playing in the times we are when we go away the first friendlies are 17th of July is Hearts away for Hearts 150 centenary, and that's when Dave Mackay was one of the greatest captains I had the pleasure to watch playing the game. Right, I think we were at Hearts for their 100th centenary as well. Then on the 20th of July, we're away to QPR, right? Don't know if we're looking at players or why it's QPR or not, right? Then on the 27th of July, we go to Vissel Kobe in Japan. 31st of July, we go to Team K in Seoul. And then the 3rd of August, we go to Bayern Munich in Seoul, right? Now, I think the reason for the July games is because, as Chang could probably verify, from June to mid-July is the rainy season out there, right? It's the rainy season so you don't want to be playing matches on a pre-season tour in those times because they might get called off, like last year's shambles.
Was a shambles.
We know them games are PR exercises to earn bucks and appease sponsors, but also it gives fans to come and watch us as well, doesn't it? You know, so you've got that as well. And then we come back and we play Bayern on the 10th of August, but at the stadium, but the season starts a week later after we play Bayern. I mean, okay, Ian, what are you hoping, or what do you hope? What is Ange hoping for? Do you think, or what do you hope we will gain out of these 6 friendlies, or would you like to see us gain out of these 6 friendlies?
No, I mean, I think, living in Scotland, I come back from Spain on the 15th, actually flying into London, so planning to drive up the road on the 16th and hopefully to be at Tynecastle on the 17th. So that'll give me my first look. It would be nice to see that there was some fresh blood in by the 17th of July, but with everything that's going on, who the hell knows? If England get to the final, for example, after what we've said, but it could happen. I think that these friendlies will be really important because the start was a very disjointed for Ange last year, and in fact we started the season remarkably well, considering how disjointed the prep was. I understand them going to the Far East and what have you. I mean, I think if you travel, and I've travelled to the Far East a fair amount in the last 10 months, everywhere you go, there are, particularly young men wearing replica football shirts, whether it's Tottenham, whether it's Arsenal, whether it's Liverpool, whether it's Man United, etc. There are some from PSG and like Bayern and Madrid and what have you, but the vast majority that I've seen in the Far East are following English clubs. So the game has massive pull in the. Chang just put his hand. Someone scored, Chang, or you just. There
was a very good penalty shout. There was a good penalty appeal for Scotland, but the referee waves it away. I really thought that Scotland were through in on goal. Sorry to interrupt you there, Mr. Matt.
No, you're all right, because my phone's just got flashed up with how the fuck was that not a penalty? But there you go. But then that's one of my Scottish pals. So he would say that, wouldn't he? But going back to these friendlies, I think it is important that you fly the flag. There is so much interest, and no doubt when they land in Tokyo or wherever, or they land in Seoul, or there will be thousands at the airport just to get a look at the players. You see the impact that Sonny's had on Tottenham's profile in that part of Asia. So yeah, I'm absolutely afraid that it's what needs to be done. But we always used to say it was about getting players fit and the new players bedded in. The other thing is, as I say, I don't think we saw anything like the kind of intensity I expected from Ange Ball. Oh, I've just seen it. That's a penalty and a red card. Well, maybe not a red. I've just seen it. My stream is late. I think that's a penalty. But so I'm really looking forward to the games, and I'm looking forward to Ange really being able to stamp his authority on his players and playing the kind of football he wants. And I think you're all going to love it.
Yeah, and with what do you hope to get from the friendlies, Chris? If you're watching them, what do you think?
I don't know if I'll be watching them. Depends on what goes on during the summer. But I think that it's this year is going to be very slow for us. But not just us. I think for everybody, because we've got the Euros, we've got the Copa America, we've got Olympics, then we've got friendlies on the other side of the universe. We've got to come back. We've got no time for anything. And I think that that's going to be an extremely big, huge hindrance for everybody.
Barring the Olympics, Chris, because clubs do not have to release their players for the Olympics under no international body.
I know they don't, but in the case that they do, right? Yeah. That is going to be a big hindrance. So you know, it's a jam-packed summer with absolutely no time for anything. And remember, just basically a year and a half ago, which seems a year and a half ago, but we had a World Cup in the middle of a season, right? And I don't think that a lot of players have got back, you know, have been able to recoup 100% for that, because it's been non-stop since then. And whenever your season ends, you've really only got about a month holidays, which before it wasn't that, full on. And now we've got a whole summer with 3 competitions, right? Now, of course, you know, players don't have to be released for the Olympics. I understand that, but in case they were to be released, you've got players that are in 3 competitions with absolutely no time to you know, for friendlies to recoup. You've got the game is you know, in and of itself it has changed with more injuries being like hamstrings, ACLs, etc., over the last 10 years or so, and that is statistically provable. And with no time to recuperate, no rest time, that's going to be completely mental. I don't know how these things are allowed to go ahead, but of course, you know, money talks and BS walks. But I think that it's. I understand the PR of it. I understand the marketing of it. I understand, you know, we've got to appease the our friends, you know, over the other side of the world, whether that be in Asia, whether that be in America, whether that be wherever you're based. I understand it, but sometimes it's. I think it's more of a hindrance than anything else, and I'm sure Ange and his staff possibly see it the same way. But I think that if they could do without all of this. You know, 27 interviews a day. I think that they could do without that, you know, and you know, just get down to the work, get there, get the work, you know, get to work and do that. They probably, you know, prefer that.
Yeah, I mean, I would have preferred the Hearts and QPR game not to be the first 2 friendlies we played, but the last 2. You know, I mean, this is. Well, I don't know if they've. Knowing Spurs the way they do, and they're expert at PR blunders and organising things. I don't know if there was any consultation this season about a tour. I would have thought there definitely would be for next season. With the pre-season arrangements this year. If he's not for any reason, then obviously there would be consulting. They'll consult him next year. And you could still fit the games in. That's if we go to Asia next year and don't go to America or somewhere else. You know? What about the academy?
But next year, next year you have got the benefit of resting. I mean, this year, for example, to have the 2 competitions, right? Whether it's in one or the other, it's still a hindrance. And you're going all the way over to the other side of the world, which is respectful, but it doesn't make sense at this summer. Right, for this summer, next summer you've got absolutely nothing. You've got no World Cup. No Euros, you've got no Olympic, you've got absolutely nothing. If you want to have 26 games, right, friendlies during, you know, I'm exaggerating to get my point across, but if you want to have, I don't know, 6-7 games friendlies in Seoul, in Ho Chi Minh, in, I don't know, Singapore, in wherever you want to go, that's fine, because at least you've got a month off and you can get rested. But now it seems like there's no material time for players to even be with their family. Do you know what I mean? Let alone a rest. As professional players, I don't know. Next year's different, I think, than this year. Complicated. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, guys, I presume. I mean, I would like to see some of the academy players given a run out in these games. Yeah. I can think of a few. I want to see Dane Scarlett giving games. Parrott scored 17 games for Excelsior in the Eredivisie, but we know that's not the greatest league in the world. It's about the same amount as Jimenez scored. So I don't know if that says anything against Jimenez, right? So now he's 22. Spurs, and he is academy homegrown, and the academy homegrown and academy trained. And the academy trained is important because we have to have 4 academy trained players for Europe. And an academy trained player is one who's been with the club for 3 years before his 21st birthday. The other 4 homegrown, you can buy them in for any other club. As long as they're homegrown over here, it doesn't matter. So at the moment, we've got the 4, which are Whiteman, the goalkeeper. Brandon Austin, who's just signed a 5-year contract. Then you've got Skip and you've got Parrott. But I was looking through the record. We could sell one of Skip or Parrott because Niall John was 21 in March and he's been with the club since he's about 10 years old, right? So he must qualify. So if those fans are, get rid of Parrott or get rid of Skip, fair enough. We know they're not players. We know that Skip's not going to take us forward. Kane didn't look nothing special, did he? He went all them loans before Sherwood did him his debut at White Hart Lane. So you don't know with Parrott. It's easy to write and say it's not going to be another Harry Kane because that's such an easy thing to say, But I want to see Donnelly given time. I'm not so concerned about Mikey Moore because he's 17 next month and he looks a generational talent, right? Donnelly, Lancashire, 23 goals in 22 league games last year.
Santiago, I like Santiago.
Soonsup Bell as well. I mean, John. I mean, then you look at George Abbott. See, a few of them have come from the 18 straight into the under-21 squad, like George Abbott, 18, captain, prospect, versatile, midfield, and he's substituted in the back 4, George Abbott, right? Then you've got, Tyrus Hall. Have a look at the player, guys, on the ball. He's like Musa Dembele Mark II. He's not as filled out as Dembele is, but he's got all them skill and he can just slip past players. He does lose the ball and all that, but he looks a baller to me. So they're good players and they will get their opportunities. And the reason I say that is because, now, John Chapman's coming from Southampton, he's head of the Academy Recruitment. But Andy Scolding's role's been changed. He's now head of loans and pathways. Now, the pathways and loans, so that'd be loans of academy players out. So it's his job to make sure they get the right loan and the club that they go to, give them play time. Because what's happened is clubs have took the piss of loans out of us, in my opinion. Now, the reason they'll get the pathways, people say, there's never, the academy players never get a chance. They will, but bear in mind that our academy players, a lot of them are well under the 21. They're 19s and 18s and things like that in the under 21 squad, right? And when they become 21 and have done their 3 years, there'll be room for them to push Skip, Parrott, Whiteman, and Brandon Austin out of that group. Although Brandon Austin's going to be with us 5 years, so they must like him to give him the 5-year contract. You wouldn't just give it to him because he's academy trainer. To be honest, I haven't seen too much of him. Whiteman was loaned out to some Scandinavian clubs before. He's just come back from a bad injury. I don't know how much they rate him. But we got 2 other excellent young goalkeepers. You got Gunter in the under-21s. The saves he's made this year, are unreal. And you got Josh Keeley went out on loan to Barnet. Now, Keeley, the Irish guy, you don't send players out on loan unless you think, okay, this guy needs to step up his football. He needs better competition. So he's good. They like him because he's gone on loan. I personally think Dane Scarlett will make it in the game. Whether it's with Spurs or not, I don't know. He will. Donnelly will, definitely. He's younger. He's got a defence splitting for it. He came from Northern Ireland as a striker, Jamie Donnelly, and Wayne Burnett's converted him to a number 10. And his forward pass to split defences is excellent. He's got that. And that is such a precious commodity in the game. right? And Donnelly's got that, you know. Yeah, but the point is they've been a joy to watch. They all look so good at that level. So, I mean, like, you know, you can't get too carried away. But they're the best crop of youngsters I've ever seen at the club. And I've watched
have you seen, talking about youngsters, have you seen this about a month ago or so, lose track of time, Daniel Kelly from Celtic, he was apparently on the radar or linked, whatever, as someone that Ange was interested in, or Spurs. And I don't know whether you looked at it, Celtic under 18 or 18.
I heard the name because at the same time Matt Riley cropped up again at a similar time over them same days. And I thought, well, I'll wait and see if it gains a bit of gravitas, you know, when more of the media pick it up, you know, not the low-tier media that print anything, right? But one of the more established ones pick it up, say top-tier media. And then I'll go and have a look. And what I do with like Gertruda and all those, I will post the videos in the what's name section, in the featured section on our Spurs Facebook group. So you'll see Eze, Elise, you'll see lots of players there, like, and so I do it. So go and have a look. You know, don't disregard a person or be harshly rejecting when you haven't even watched the player play. You know what I mean? And you get a lot of that with all supporters groups. You get a lot of that. They're quick to, like, you know, dish players. And they've never even seen them play. So I think the future's very bright at Spurs. I really do with them youngsters. Even like Alfie Devine, I'm a fan. Remember he scored that goal against Marine away in the FA Cup. He was 15, right? He's had a couple of loans. Now I think that him and Phillips will go back. They'll go with Wayne Rooney, I think, back to Plymouth. I think, yeah. Fair enough, David. Fair enough. I trust your judgment on that.
By the way, David, I know we're not talking about the Scotland game, but I've read seen your comments. I agree, not a penalty. Only a tartan. You got tartan eyes if you think that was a penalty. So I agree, and I agree with your reasons why as well. Germany have scored 1-1. Okay. Okay.
Interesting.
That's interesting.
10 minutes stoppage time in Stuttgart after that really bad injury, and the Czechs have just not the Czechs, the Hungarians have just hit the post. Have actually had a couple of really good chances, looking more likely to win now than Scotland. Anyway, sorry, Adrian, back to yours.
No, I was just talking about the youngsters. I don't know. You say you like Santiago. I like Santiago. He didn't have the best of seasons last year, but this year he's really shown his class. And he said, because he came to us as a kid from Spain, and he actually turned in and said, best decision of my life coming to Spurs. You love it when players come out with comments like that. You know what I mean? Because, like, and of course, once you're in a team, they won 2 League Cups the year before. The 17s won it and the 18s won it. And Mikey Moore played in both those games. He got trophies. Then you got the under-21s. They win the league. And then they got to play in that playoff situation. But apparently there was a second trophy for that. So they won the league and then they won the playoff competition by the top 16 teams in that league, or however they worked it, for another trophy. I mean, if they'd lost the final, it would have been criminal. But, like, you know, watched it. I mean, you can watch all them Spurs play. Is good value for money to watch them. And you get to watch every league game Spurs play, all the wins, about an hour or two after the games are over. You get to watch them all the way through. For, like, you know, it's good value. I actually think one thing the club have got right is Spurs play. I think it's very good value. Any of you got any more comments about anything in general, under 21s and all that, or whatever? Because I think we just...
I would just like to see a lot more of Mikey Moore next season. I know he's been training with the first team, and I think he got a few substitute appearances. But I think it's game time that he really needs, whether it's away on loan or maybe in some of those European matches that we'll be playing next season. But I think Mikey Moore needs game time in order to, you know, excel and improve his game.
He will probably be integrated into first team squad, as will Lucas Birdwell, because the rumour is he's going to be integrated straight into the squad. And Mikey Moore can't go out on loan, Chang, because he's not 18 years old. He's only 17 in July. And you cannot send players out before then. When they come at 16, I don't know what it's like in Spain and things like that, you can give them a 2-year scholarship at 16 with a 1-year professional contract. You can't give them more than a 1-year professional contract. So I think that's must be to do with players' welfare and be able to make a decision at that age, you know. And decision for them, whether it's mum and dad or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, so I think Mikey Moore, I think you'll see him get some minutes, second half minutes in these 6 friendlies. I think he'll be going out. He'll be going out on the tour to Japan and Korea, and I'm sure Donnelly will be going as well. Dane Scarlett will go, and they've got to take Troy Parrott because they've got to have a look at him because a decision's got to be made. Right, okay. If Anne says, "Nah, I don't fancy him," don't forget we still got Veliz. Veliz needs to have a few games as well. And I like the look of Veliz. The little I've seen him on videos when he played in Argentina, I like the look of him. Right?
Me too.
Yeah, he's quick forward, right? And yeah. So I mean, Ange is he's got a lot of work to do this pre-season, and that's without incomings, and he wants them in early. But as Ian correctly said, and I've mentioned it before, why the transfer window can't open the day the season closes, I don't know. I mean, no, don't make excuses for players going on holiday. You know, if you're going to get a contract made for life, you can park that holiday. Right? You can park that holiday if you're going to sign a multi-million-pound contract, right? And you're made for life. Most players are. This is why I think 2 of them are millionaire comfort and a millionaire comfort zone. I think too many players are in that zone. Right. Yeah, just on the J League and the K League. Their leagues actually both run from February to December, both of those leagues. But the J League are going to bring in 26-27 season. They're going to bring it in line with Europe. The only reason some of the Europe teams in the north are a little bit out of kilter with the other leagues in Europe is because they get terrible winters. So their leagues are a different start and finish date, which is understandable, right? So that's about that. So I haven't really got anything else, guys, unless you've got anything else.
Yeah. Bergvall, for example, over here in Spain, he was linked to Barcelona.
Yeah.
Before he joined Spurs. Now there are 3 reasons why he ended up at Spurs and not up at Barcelona. One was wages. You get more wages promised at Spurs. 2, he was promised first team football, which he wasn't at Barcelona because of perhaps the managerial situation at Barcelona, Xavi's continuation or not, and now he's not there. And 3rd is the agent commission. So I would put my house up for whatever. I would bet my house that he is not going to go out on loan. He's going to be a first team player next season because that is what has been agreed on upon signing for Spurs.
Yeah, I think those points may be right, but my understanding, I read an interview with him and his family that they very nearly didn't even bother to go to Barcelona. So happy were they with the Tottenham proposal and the presentation and the videos they showed of how he played and how they thought he was going to integrate with the Spurs team, which from all I can say seemed to be incredibly professional. That he only went to Barcelona out of politeness because he'd already arranged it and the jet had been arranged and what have you. But I just like the fact that a player like that chooses us. Same with Dragoshin choosing us over Bayern. That we're obviously doing an awful lot right.
All I would say is that regardless of whether the presentation was, I don't know, PowerPoint 2.0 or 1.50, I don't know, right? Whether it was the updated version or not. If the money makes sense, if the footballing possibilities make sense, and if your agent is happy, you're not signing for Spurs, you're signing for Barcelona, regardless of the presentation. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. I just don't necessarily think that's right. I mean, I think if with everything that Tottenham are doing and and saying that you know, this is how you're going to fit in. You're going to be playing in the first team, and what have you. Then I think I just think it shows how professional we've become. I really do.
Oh no, but that's good on the Spurs side, which is brilliant. But from the Barcelona side, the lack of clarity, promising him first team football because of the managerial situation with Xavi, and obviously now he's not here because Flick's here. That possibly was one of the reasons why he wasn't, you know, promised first team football. Plus, he's coming from a different league, you know. 1-0 Hungary. So all of these, you know, factors obviously have to take into consideration. Now, I've got no horse in the race. If Bergvall is as good as they say, I don't care whether he plays with Barcelona or Spurs, because I win anyway, you know, as a fan. But you know, that's what has been said over here, that the conditions were that he would be promised first team football, he would get better wages, and of course his agent, well, is going to get more money. So this is what I can offer on that respect. And
but do you not think there's an element of the Catalonian press, you know what the English press are like, the Catalonian press, actually not being able to believe that any player would choose Tottenham over Barcelona?
No, I don't, because it wasn't one of those. It wasn't with either Sport or Mundo Deportivo. It was an independent one, which is quite you know kosher, so to speak. So what I don't do is I don't read a headline and say, oh, it's got to be true. I do, you know, because I wouldn't be on with so many people watching saying this, because I'm not that much of an idiot. I'm an idiot, but I'm not that much of an idiot. You know, I do my research.
Yeah, no, fair.
I can give my opinion, and I can give my fact, and this is researched, and I've said it on other channels as well. And I wouldn't be, you know, doing the rounds, making an idiot of myself if I didn't believe in that information. So.
Just to come to Nita's point, Nita, big up to you anyway in the chat. The reason with the Premier League's a total different ball game to what you know, to Europe, and regarding academies and youngsters, because only 3% of Premier League academy players actually become members of their first team squads, and that's, you know, the squads are 25, and there's a reason for that: money. See, in Europe, the clubs that haven't got money, they will bring in young players, they'll get blooded youngsters, and when they're at 18 and 19, they've probably had game time and may have progressed better than some of the youngsters in the academies in the UK who haven't got game time. And so it's money. And also, the reason the Premier League clubs don't blood their youngsters is because they've got the money to go out and fix the holes in their squad. And they'll go out and buy players. So, and whereas the European clubs haven't got the money the Premier League's got, they have to cut their cloth accordingly. So that's why and then what happens? They come to plunder our league. What happens? Bellingham goes to Europe. You know, Sancho goes to Dortmund. He should stay there because he seems to play his best football there. You know, another Marcus Edwards goes to Sporting. Mandueke at Spurs, he went off to Holland and then he ends up at Chelsea, right? Spurs Academy, you know. So I'm sure there's lists of loads of other players that have gone on to Europe that because they couldn't get game time over here, and it will continue. This is why that European rule, which I like, you have to have 4 academy homegrown academy trained players. I like that rule. I would like to see it increase to 6. I really would, because I just think it would be benefit everyone. The rich clubs won't want it, right? Maybe Spurs might not even want it, but I would like to see that increase to 6. I mean, England would benefit at the end because more of the players that are academies in the UK are British rather than foreign, you know. So, and that's what I'd like to see. I mean, I don't know what anybody else's take on it. And you're a coach, Chris. You work with these young players, you know what I mean? So,
well, I mean, there's definitely you know, a high percentage of agreement from my side. You know, what you just said. It always isn't as clean cut as like a player goes here because the club doesn't want him, right? It doesn't mean that the player stays in a foreign country because the foreign club wants him. It has to be a give or take, and it sounds basic. But then there was a comment here about I think it was from Nita. Palmer's parents, right? So socially, personally, you got the club that owns the player. You got the club that possibly the player is at on loan, for example, or is interested in. You've got so many factors to take in, right? You've got the skill set of the player. You've got the psychology of the player. You've got, I don't know, so many things that you've got to take it. The adaptation of the environment, right? That sports science and sports psychology today takes into consideration. And I mean, it isn't just so clear cut as, I'm not saying that you're not saying, I'm just saying that, in general, that a lot of people don't take into consideration. That must be taken into consideration, right? So take Mikey Moore, for example. He came out after the famous Man City game, the Arsenal debacle, right, at home, and he played in that. And at the end of the game, he said something like, the speed at which the tempo or something like that, the speed at which the game is played, it's just amazing, right? So for example, everybody wants Mikey Moore to succeed, right? On a selfish, right? Because we're all selfish. We want to see our players play. We want to see them do tricks. We want to see them score goals, assist. We want to see them adapt as well as possible to the team. What if Mikey Moore is not physically, tactically, technically, environmentally, psychologically prepared to do that? What if he's not? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and another thing that gets me is, right, you'll get our fans. We're not alone. It's the other fans of other clubs.
Sure.
They'll come out with statements like, well, Man City play Nico Williams, or no, not Nico Williams. We're talking Henry in it, or Newcastle play that youngster, or Man United play Mainu, who I like as well. He does look a very good player, right? Why aren't we playing our youngsters? Well, there's a reason why, because Wayne Burnett talks to Ange, talks to Johan Langer, right? And don't get me wrong, guys, there's so many clubs sniffing around our youngsters that want to loan them or buy them or whatever, at the moment, because they're doing well. But they're not. Most of them players are not at the top end of 21. They're not. And they're not ready. Phillips out on loan. I think he's 19. He's 6'4", built like a brick, but he's out on loan. Dorrington's better on the ball. He's had injury, left-footed. He looks better on the ball, and Phillips is very good on the ball as well. But Dorrington got that little bit better about him. He's, on the left-hand side. So, but why do you think they're at Plymouth? Why do you think they're going to go there with Rooney again, probably next year, to get that time under their belt? And then we're looking, probably we're looking at 2 seasons. If they, they don't up sticks and go some of these youngsters somewhere else, we're looking. It's going to be a couple of seasons. It really is going to be a couple of seasons. Even if Donny got game time tomorrow, he's 19-20, right? I mean, back in the day, you'll know this, Ian. You judge the player after the second season, not if they had a one-hit wonder season. And now fans have got the attention span of a goldfish. They want everything now. It doesn't work like that.
No. And what's interesting is, and it's a bit of a dilemma for the football department, for the manager, and for the chairman, is I can go out and buy all these players. I absolutely think that. Sorry, my phone's flashing with my golf mates talking about the Scottish game. That you've got a real dilemma in the fact that you've got all these young players coming through, but if we go out and spend 150 million pounds on players, that's going to block the path to the first team of some of these really good youngsters. So it's a dilemma. You could say, okay, great. What we'll do is it's the class of 92. We'll bung them all in and what have you. And then you're in a relegation fight all of a sudden. And it's like, what the hell have we done? It's a real dilemma of who you buy at this stage. Because if you're going to want, I keep waiting for Scarlett to show what he can do. It seems he can do it for England, but he can't do it in club football.
He scored against Shakhtar Donetsk when we won 5-1 and Kane got one.
Yeah,
I mean, he's a natural goal scorer. Seriously, he's a natural.
But he's not. He's been out on loan here. He was at Portsmouth, I think, and didn't do anything. Couldn't get a game at Ipswich. I know they were getting promoted, but he couldn't get a game there. Couldn't get a sniff of a game.
And you're right, Ian. And then you have the other issue, right, which is Ange, the manager. Now, supposing like Skip, Parrott, Whiteman, and Austin weren't our 4 academy trained players for Europe, right? So then you bring 4 in from the academy, but that's not the solution as such.
No,
when you bring him in, Ange has got to want those 4 in the squad. He's got to like them 4 players enough to have them in the squad. If he doesn't think, no, I don't want players in my squad just brought in to make the numbers up.
No, absolutely.
He wants the ones he likes to look at.
Yeah,
now,
bang on.
He's spoilt for choice now. He could easily pick another 4 on those 4. You could take 4 out of the B team, but once you take them out of the B team to make up the numbers, you can't put them back in the B team. In the B team, you can have as many as youngsters. You can have as this different list, right?
Yeah.
You've got homegrown, 4 academy trained, homegrown for Europe, 4 ordinary homegrown. Then you've got 17 foreign players, 25. Right? Then you've got your B list, which are youngsters. And I don't see the limit on the B list. But I'm sure if you switch one over, you can't switch him back afterwards, So it could doom his career then, because if he couldn't be switched back, you'd probably want to get rid of him, So I agree. I agree with what you say. You lot have talked a lot of sense tonight. It's been a thoroughly enjoyable show. We've been running for 2 hours 10, or 2 hours seems to be the norm for us, which is good. So what I'm going to do is play this out and end the stream.
Yeah, I'd like to comment.